Alright, everybody. We are doing a silly little video today, but something that I think is going to be fun. So, we are going to talk about what if, since we're right in the middle of what if right now, what if everyone in this trailer, Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, is Mysterio? And the way I'm going to do that is one at a time, right? So, what if this person was Mysterio? What would that mean? Not what if literally all of them were Mysterio. I've seen a lot of people talking about this trailer. I tried to avoid watching it for a while, but then half of my YouTube feed was other people talking about it, so I watched it. And then I watched reactions from people that I follow, and not many people are talking very much about Mysterio, so I'm doing it. So, first up, what if MJ is Mysterio? Now, I don't think this is very likely because MJ was close with Peter before the whole Mysterio thing went down. This would have to be a very, very long con. But I will say, this look that she gives him, that could be interpreted as a sinister smile. Don't think it's the case, but I'm going pretty much in order of when we see people in this trailer. So we're going to give MJ a pass for now. Let's move on. Who do we see next? Come on now. Next up, J. Jonah Jameson. So what if J. Jonah Jameson is Mysterio? When's the first time we see J. Jonah Jameson in this universe? It's right after Mysterio supposedly dies. He's the one that outs Peter Parker as Spider-Man, supposedly with evidence gathered by Mysterio. What if Mysterio is J. Jonah Jameson? Or rather, what if J. Jonah Jameson is Mysterio? He set the plan in motion. He had a way for the information to get out, and then he's just sitting back, right? And he's just going to be the guy on camera. And for the record, when I say quote unquote is Mysterio, it could mean Jake Gyllenhaal, literally the person of Mysterio, putting on the illusions, but it could also just be that team, right? That team is Mysterio, and they are doing these things. So this one, I think, is actually a bit more plausible. I think people are so distracted by the fact that J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson, and we loved him so much, and blah, 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 that I think it might be going right by people's radar that maybe it's not really him. Clearly, it's not, the one that most of us are familiar with because he doesn't work for a newspaper. He works in this online multimedia world, which seems like a lot better fit for Quentin Beck's areas of expertise. So this one, just in case anyone's taking me seriously, I don't think any of these are super likely, but, if we're going to play the game, I think this one's pretty likely. My Google thinks I'm talking to it. That J. Jonah Jameson might actually be Mysterio. Who's next? All right, I'm calling this guy number one. Interrogating Peter Parker at the police station. Doesn't seem super likely because, why would he be doing this? But this could be someone from the Mysterio team who's trying to basically keep the information that Peter knows from getting out to the public. Keep the evidence about, he had these drones and there were holograms and different things and blah, 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 blah. And if Peter is giving that stuff to different officers, I forget what this is damage control, I think. But if he's giving that information to who he believes are police officers, expecting that they're going to do what they're supposed to do with that information, but the people that he's giving that to are actually part of Team Mysterio, then they're kind of keeping that, for lack of a better word, that conspiracy theory, which is actually the truth, they're keeping that pushed down by being the ones that he's telling, right? If the people you report the crimes to are the criminals themselves, then those crimes aren't going to get reported. So maybe not this guy specifically, but I do think it's an interesting idea that Team Mysterio has infiltrated damage control and the police and different things like that. And, we've seen before that Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, is very trusting of people that he thinks are in authority because he trusted Quentin Beck way too quickly in Far From Home. So, of course, he sees someone in a police uniform, he's going to be trusting of them, or even not necessarily the police, but damage control, whatever. He's going to trust that they're who they say they are without really looking into it. So maybe this guy is part of Team Mysterio. Then we get who I'm calling guy number 2. A lot of people are wondering if this is Matt Murdock or not. I don't have any reason to believe that, really. Murdock usually wears a jacket with his suit, and you would think that his cane or something would be visible. It seems odd that Peter is focused on his hands or the files, rather than, you would think maybe he would be looking at his sunglasses or, again, a cane that might be somewhere off screen. So I'm not convinced. I don't know. But basically everything I said for guy number 1 also applies to guy number 2. Moving on. I don't know why my computer sometimes responds to me and sometimes does not. Next up, we have Ned. So just like MJ, this would be a really long con. I don't think there's much chance that Ned is actually Mysterio. Next person we see is Aunt May. Very similar. I don't think she would be Mysterio. It is technically a possibility because there's a 5-year gap because Spider-Man was gone for 5 years. So if Mysterio or Team Mysterio was trying to get close to him with Aunt May or Ned or MJ, and the connection didn't seem quite there, they could always just explain it away. The Mysterio person could always explain it away by saying, we were gone for 5 years, man. It's going to take a while for things to get back to normal, right? So there could be some explanation for some distance there, but I don't think Mysterio is going to risk too much on someone that close to him. I think the core family, including his closest friends, are probably safe from being Mysterio, but you never know. Next up, we have who I'm calling Strange 1. So this is the Hoodie Strange. I've already seen the theories that it's Mephisto. I think there's a lot of plausibility in that. I mean, he literally creates fire in this scene, and then we've got another shot later on with the phrase devil in disguise on it. This could just be Marvel trolling us some more. But it could be Mysterio, right? Clearly, he's got experience with magical-looking runes and energies. And do they actually... I think in the trailer for Far From Home, they said that he looked like a combination of Iron Man and Thor. But I think you could easily make the comparison with Doctor Strange between the energy and the cloak that he's got. So this seems like the kind of character that he would inhabit. He's, kind of eccentric and excitable when he wants to be. Peter doesn't know him that well, so it'd be easy to fake. Everyone just kind of seems to be going with the fact that the Sanctum Sanctorum is completely iced over. Maybe Mephisto is working on different illusions. Maybe he's trying to actually learn real magic to combine that with his illusions, and it went wrong, and he doesn't know how to fix it. I don't know. But then we see later who I'm calling Strange 2 in the more traditional garb. So I do think, and I don't really want to say anything too definitively because I want this video to mostly be a joke, and I don't want to be proven wrong. But I do think that there are going to be at least 2 different characters appearing as Doctor Strange in this film. Whether one's Doctor Strange and one's Mysterio, or one's Doctor Strange and one is Mephisto, or one's Doctor Strange and one is a Skrull. I think there's going to be 2 different ones. And I don't think it's unintentional that we saw 2 different versions of costumes here. And the only location that we see this one at is here in this Sanctum Sanctorum. This guy we see in this cellar area. We see him on the weird Inception trains. So it seems like this one is a little bit more isolated, which leads me to believe that he's not genuine. And I just, from what I've taken away from Doctor Strange and the films that he's been in, I don't think he would wear something like this. He seems, and maybe he's cooled down, but he seems too pretentious. Like, it seems like if he saw somebody wearing something like this, he would think less of them. He might even talk down to them. But, like, think about when he was wearing comfortable clothes in Doctor Strange, when he wasn't, doing magic. He doesn't seem like this is his getup. So it seems like this is someone's attempt at being a chill Doctor Strange. So I don't know. It could just be that he's mellowed out over time. But I would say probably of all the ones we've looked at so far, this is the most likely to not be who it appears. Whether that's Mysterio or Mephisto or Squirrel or something else, a deviant. I've heard people talking about the deviants. I don't really know enough about them to weigh in on that, but I don't want to say that I don't think this is Doctor Strange, but I of the people we've talked about so far, this is the person that I would most expect to be someone else. Maybe that's a misdirect, though, right? Maybe they're making us think that so that we don't see the more obvious things like Mary Jane or J. Jonah Jameson. That's the one I was thinking of. But yeah, so we've got 2 Doctor Stranges. Let's move on. We got Wong. I think Wong is safe only because it looks like he's going to the fight scene that we see in the Shang-Chi trailer. So I think he's going to be pretty absent for most of this movie. And that to me leads more credence to the fact that Doctor Strange is not a real Doctor Strange, because Wong seems distracted, like he's got other stuff going on, and that could be a good explanation for, well, if Doctor Strange was, being impersonated, why didn't Wong notice? Well, because Wong was elsewhere doing other things, and we've already seen that in the Shang-Chi trailers. So I think Wong is safe. Then we get Happy. Again, this would be another one that's would be a long con. It's hard to tell how close Peter and Happy are. Obviously, Happy was the go-between him and Tony, but he didn't really take that job very seriously. We don't really see Happy pondering Peter like we saw Tony. I think, it's definitely possible that Happy, the real Happy, could just be, off the radar somewhere. And so Mysterio notices his absence and tries to get in back into Peter's life that way, because he's someone that Peter knows and respects. And obviously there was something there with Aunt May. So this could be not someone you'd expect, but someone that might have good access to personal information about Peter and getting into his home. And obviously he's got access to Tony Stark's equipment and things. And Quentin Beck was a former employee of Tony Stark. So that seems like something that he could fake his way through a lot. So I don't see a whole lot of what would come out of this, but I can see there's a few different things there about why he might choose this one, because he's got access to Peter professionally and personally. Got access to Aunt May, which could be useful for a hostage situation, but also has access to Stark Industries and things like that. So maybe. I don't know about Happy. All right, so then we get this thing, which I've seen some people calling the Lizard. Other people have said maybe Venom. I didn't get it really in my screen grab, but there's this like yellowish orangish energy coming out in a circle, apparently from this guy. So I don't think it's either of them. I have no idea who this is. So could it be Mysterio? Yeah, because I don't know who it is. But yeah, I don't really have much to say on this. I think a lot of people are seeing what they want to see in this. But I'm not really seeing enough there to go anywhere with. So I'm going to move on. All right, then we get the pumpkin bomb. We don't actually see the Goblin. But now we start getting into characters from other universes, which would raise the question, well, how would Quentin Beck know, what to impersonate? If he's impersonating someone from another universe, how would he even know to do that? I'm going to get there. But Green Goblin, this is a Mysterio shtick of these bombs and technology, and we see the big explosion later, and like that kind of misdirection that the Goblin employs in his own way, Mysterio could easily emulate. We don't actually see the Goblin at all. Even if we did, that could have been a Mysterio thing. But this big explosion that we see this cause, that might not even be real, right? Mysterio can create fake explosions. So I think it could be. This was one that I don't know why he would specifically be the Green Goblin, but I've got a theory that, again, I'll get to later. I don't know who this person is. I've titled this image Mystery Lady. I don't know if I'm supposed to know who it is. I don't know if it's someone we've seen before, if it's someone new to this movie. I have no idea. If anyone knows who that is, let me know. And then we get Doc Ock. So again, I would say this could be Mysterio. And in terms of why and how, I will get into later. So, I guess later is now. When we saw the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, and this bit where Peter first meets Quentin, we are told, and Peter is told, that Quentin Beck is from another dimension, and that he's here to help. Right? Now, the last half of that, the fact that he's here to help, clearly was a lie. And I think most people just then assumed that the first part, that he was from an alternate dimension, was also a lie. But I ask you, how can we be sure of that? What if he actually is from another dimension? And what if he has the ability to travel between dimensions, and so he's finding other versions of Peter Parker and their enemies like Ock and Green Goblin, and he's bringing those characters in? I don't think that's the most outrageous idea that I've ever heard. And maybe it's not even the same Quentin Beck. Maybe he's got like a council of Ricks, and there's a bunch of different Quentin Becks that all keep tabs on each other throughout the multiverse. And so this is another one coming as part of Revenge Against Spider-Man. So that would bring in the question, why impersonate Doc Ock? Why impersonate Green Goblin? Well, a couple ideas here. Number one, just to overwhelm Peter, right? And he's already overwhelmed with being outed as Spider-Man, having died for 5 years and come back, trying to figure out things with MJ and Ned and all of the people at his school, Tony Stark being gone, right? He's already got so much on his plate. Why not just throw a bunch of villains at him too, right? And instead of having to think up your own threats like he did in Far From Home, because remember I'll get to that later. Rather than thinking up new threats and having to come up with all this stuff, if you can go to another universe, see someone that has fought a Spider-Man with those powers, with those abilities, that's a version of Peter Parker, and then just emulate that, that seems easier to control, copy, control, paste on a larger scale than to constantly be coming up with stuff yourself. If he is somehow actually bringing these characters from these other universes, they've got a personal, stake into actually giving Peter Parker some grief. So I think it could go a couple of ways. It could be that they are not hallucinations, holograms and stuff like that he's emulating from seeing them, or it could be that he is bringing them from these other dimensions into the MCU universe just to make grief for Spider-Man. So some other characters that people have speculated are that this might be some Electro and Sandman action. We get another shot later. I haven't seen anyone talk about this. There's something red down here. I don't know if it's just a lens flare or if it's some kind of plant, but it's pretty dark. It seems weird. But if you go back and you watch this part, this thing moves a bit. I think it's probably just a lens flare, but that could be another Spider-Man in a red suit. I don't know. We've got our Spider-Man here, the black suit. Anyway, we've got this lightning and sand combo. So Electro, apparently, people are saying is confirmed to be in this. Seems like Sandman is likely too. I wonder if this is a guy. Again, if you go back and you rewatch this part, there's this kind of shape that forms up around here and comes up, and then it moves to the top, and it looks like it's like writing on this sand cloud. And if you look, it's like, if that's back and up a ways, that's about the size of a guy. I wonder if that's a guy. Anyway, lightning and sand moving about. Yeah, maybe it's Electro, maybe it's Sandman, or maybe we've already seen Mysterio do things like this in Far From Home. He made a big Sandman. He made a big Hydra Man. He made a big air monster. And he made a big Molten Man. So, again, this is something that could go either way. There could be an Electro and a Sandman in here, or they could be just emulations, holograms done by Quentin Beck and or Team Mysterio, because he's done stuff like this before. What's next? I don't know if I want to move on yet. Do I want to move on yet? I don't want to move on yet. Okay, so just to reiterate my point of why would Mysterio be emulating all these people, I think it's just to try and just absolutely overwhelm and overpower Spider-Man, because he wants to get rid of him. So that's the end of kind of this main point of this video. What if everyone in this trailer is actually Mysterio? As I said, this is more of a joke than anything else. I don't think any of this is too serious. I do think Mysterio, whether the person or the team, will have a presence in this movie. I think the fact that they mentioned him but didn't show anything was probably intentionally designed to be vague and unhelpful. But a lot of people are talking about the idea that these old villains are going to become this movie's Sinister Six. So if we go through, we've got potentially Sandman and Electro, which is 1 and 2. Doc Ock is 3. Green Goblin is 4. Whether this is Venom or the Lizard, doesn't really matter, is 5. I think that's all the villains that we see. So then Mysterio himself would be 6. But I think, and maybe I'm in the minority here, I think that having your Sinister Six be made up of creatures from different universes that don't actually have a connection to this Spider-Man is kind of weak. I like the idea of bringing in characters from other universes, but the Sinister Six, my understanding, and I could be wrong, it's been a long time since I've read old Spider-Man comics, but my understanding was it was characters who couldn't defeat Spider-Man on their own, and so were pretty much forced to team up with other villains to take him down. None of these guys have fought this Spider-Man before, so it wouldn't make sense for them to team up. And if they're not teaming up, then it's not really the Sinister Six, even if there's 6 villains in there. So I think that's kind of weak. But also, I think these movies have already set up the MCU Sinister Six. We've gotten Vulture. We've gotten Mac Gargan, who will become the Scorpion. We've got Quentin Beck, Mysterio. We've got that Russian guy that may or may not be the Chameleon. And there's a lot of promise and potential for them to bring in his brother, Kraven the Hunter. So you've got 5 right there. I feel like I'm missing someone. There were multiple Shockers. And so I think it's weird to bring in a Sinister Six from other movies when you got all his villains from these movies who are still kicking around. We know Vulture is still around. And to not include any of them in this six. So what I think this is, story-wise, is Mysterio, either Quentin Beck or Team Mysterio, throwing in a bunch of villains at Spider-Man just to overwhelm him, whether that's actually bringing characters through the multiverse, which I'm going to get to in a minute, or just emulating them from observing them throughout the multiverse. But I think that's going to plant the idea in the casual viewer who's not familiar with the comic version of the Sinister Six. It's going to plant the idea of a bunch of Spider-Man villains teaming up, and then in the next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, we will get the real MCU version of the Sinister Six with the MCU villains that we've had. At that point, if they've brought in things like Venom and Morbius and Carnage into this universe, which I think it's unclear at this point, but Vulture is going to be in Morbius, right? I think that's confirmed. So there's more potential to draw from without having to set up new characters like the Chameleon and Kraven and things like that. So I think this is a stepping stone to the Sinister Six, but I don't think this is going to really be the Sinister Six. Just like people thought in Far From Home that we were going to get the Elementals. And I was like, kind of, but not really. So I think that's what this is going to be. It's not really the Sinister Six, but getting it in our heads, getting us primed for it, and getting the casual viewer primed for it before actually getting us there. So I've been talking about Quentin Beck being able to travel through the multiverse, right? Maybe he can actually do that, like he said. We get a couple shots of this, which to me looks very similar to the Bifrost. Now, this is in the bit of the trailer where Doctor Strange messes up the spell because Spider-Man won't shut up. Again, if that is Doctor Strange, maybe it's Mysterio, maybe it's Mephisto, maybe it's something else. This is a shot of the Bifrost from the first Thor movie. And this is what we see in that scene. So they're obviously not identical, but they look very similar. It's that kind of boom tube idea that, what's his name, Darkseid uses. So I don't think this is the Bifrost, but this definitely seems like this could be a interdimensional transportation medium, right? An Einstein-Rosen bridge, right? This is something that could get characters, including Mysterio, including these other villains, between universes. And it's just there for a bit and then it's gone, but I think this might actually have a big part to play in this movie. Reminded me very much of the Bifrost. Couple last things before I go here. Same part of the trailer, Doctor Strange is doing this spell. Doctor Strange's energy is always this yellowish, orangish energy, right? That's fine. But as he's doing this spell, this bluish energy is coming in the background. And I rewatched it a couple times. I was like, maybe that's just like dormant energy in this place. It doesn't show up until he starts doing this magic. And then as this magic gets more intense, that blue magic gets more intense. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if there's another character at play here. I don't know if this isn't Doctor Strange, if it's someone else potentially using magic, if this is part of the illusion, and then this is the actual magical energy signature of whoever's actually doing it. But very soon after this, we get this. So this is still Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, and this thing has blown apart, and it's very purple. Blue and purple. And what does this remind me of? That scene from Loki, where we get lots of blue and purple energy. So I have seen other people talk about this, but I think that this event from Loki and this event from Spider-Man No Way Home are going to happen almost simultaneously. And so this one is about changing our universe. This looks like it could be traveling between universes. This is about alternate realities from our own timeline. I think the combination of all of those things results in the crossing over of dimensions and of realities and of universes blending into one another, because these multiple things are happening simultaneously, and that's why it gets broken, right? If it was just this, maybe it could have been contained. If it was just this, maybe it could have been contained. But when they both happen at once, that's when the lines get blurred and bad things happen. So I do think, and that it could even include elements from WandaVision and things like that. I think, that could be how you bookend this multiverse era of the MCU, is that this big combination of things had to happen to start it, and maybe phase 4 through phase 6, right, is all about finding the right people who are powerful enough to undo that. And then once they close that, then they can kind of put a bow on the concept of multiverses for a while, and they don't constantly have to be, because that's going to be a lot to keep up with. And I think they can handle it for maybe a decade. But then what do you do after that? So I think if they bookend it that way by having a number of super powerful magic users combining their powers, like they are the Infinity Stones of this next one. It's not that you have to collect a bunch of rocks; it's that you've got to find these different people of this level of power. Then they can kind of close it all off, and then have something different coming moving forward. Just my thought. Rampant speculation. That's all this is. I've got at least one more. I don't know if there's anything else between this and that. Let's see. No. Okay, so my last rampant speculation today. Is this Tippy Toe? Is this Squirrel Girl's squirrel? It doesn't have a bow. But this might be Tippy Toe. Now, before you go telling me, Sam Tom, it's just a squirrel. Relax about it. What is happening on screen and on sound in the soundtrack when this is shown? Well, Doctor Strange is telling Peter that the fact that he's trying to live 2 lives is causing problems. That's a problem for Doreen Green. And the music is playing the Spider-Man theme song, which in the Squirrel Girl comics, Squirrel Girl rewrites the words to be her theme song. So I'm not saying I'm sure. I'm just saying there's more than enough there for me to wonder if this is Tippy Toe and if there's going to be some Squirrel Girl Easter eggs in this movie, which would be amazing. But we're going to end it there. That's all that I got. Thank you for watching. Like I said, only take this as seriously as you want to. If you think some of these are actually interesting ideas worth exploring, by all means, dive into it. If you've got other theories that I didn't mention, please tell me. And if you think this is all stupid and I'm an idiot, you know what? You're right. You're right. Go ahead and tell me that, though. Comment below. It still helps. But that's where I'm going to end this. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what thoughts you have, and have a good day.